Hello sim racers and welcome back to the Fixed Setup Oval Racing Guide. It is week 7 of season 2. My goodness, time is flying. We've got a great mix of options this week, including some road course racing with a really unexpected car that I think could be the sleeper hit of the week. Lots of fun to be had. Looking back at last week, an overwhelming majority of you thought that Be Fixed at Talladega was the best combo of week 6. And I'm guessing that that is largely driven by the package that's on the Cup car, A Fixed, that proved to be a challenge for many drivers. There was a lot of feedback, a lot of discussions. I saw it in chat during my live streams throughout the week of either people really liking it or really hating it. I found that C Fixed at North Wilkesboro was pretty entertaining, both from a racing and voice communication perspective. We had some fun in C Fixed, but in any event, we're back to full strength this week. All the normal series to be covered, no lost footage, so let's get into it. But just before we start, I want to thank this video's sponsor, Advanced GG, the creators of Focus, the best open label supplement for gaming and esports. You want to sharpen up those reflexes before your next race? Get some Focus from Advanced GG, and you will be making all the right moves thanks to the only clinically proven results available on the market. Head over to advanced.gg and use code HOUSE at checkout to save 10% on your purchase. All that linked down in the pinned comment below. Again, big thank you to Advanced GG. Now, let's get into this week's guide. ARCA returns to road course racing for the first time in a long while, visiting the Legacy Daytona road course for a 10-lap race that takes place at 3:25 p.m. in Sim. As I traditionally do when a road course comes around, well, I bring in a ringer to show us the ropes. So let's welcome back Nate Stewart for a lap around this challenging layout at Daytona. Nate used a 10-to-1 steering ratio and put the brake bias down to its minimum, 60%, and then recommended going an additional -2 in car for the lap. That's a lot of brake bias. But in his words, ARCA is rough, end quote. So if a proficient road racer says that, I can only imagine how us mere mortals feel about taking a lap around here. Let's see what he did. His lap time was a 1:51.749. I promise you, I have zero desire to even take this combo on. But if you do, I want to hear about it. If you run one of these races, come back, let me know in the comment section below how it went, what your thoughts were. This looks so difficult, I have no interest in trying it. But like I always say with road course racing, keeping the car on track should be your main focus. If you can do that, you're going to have a really good chance for success in the race. Most of the drivers you're going to race against will go off track and just beat themselves. Avoiding mistakes is a surefire way to put yourself in position for good results. Remember, this race will only affect your road iRating and safety rating, not oval. So if you do jump into it and things don't go your way, don't worry. It's not going to tank your oval iRating. The other half of the road course offerings this week comes in the form of the C-Class street stocks. I didn't even know they went to road courses. They go to Lime Rock Park for a 20-lap race that takes place at 2:45 p.m. in Sim. How cool. We're going to bring back Nate Stewart for another lap here. He used a 10-to-1 steering ratio and 55% brake bias for his lap. His lap time was a 59.912. Is it just me, or does this look like an absolute blast to drive? I'm almost regretting letting Nate do it. I wish I had done it myself, but I will definitely be checking this combo out throughout the week. And remember, just like with ARCA, only your road iRating and safety rating matter. So jump in without any worries about how a bad race could impact your oval stats. And again, keep your car on the track. That should be job number one. Expect a lot of contact in that backstretch chicane area as well. That seems like a prime opportunity for things to go wrong. It's probably the biggest braking zone of the entire lap, and with big braking zones comes outrageous dive bombs. So yeah, be ready for that. We'll see you out there. The super late models go to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway for 60 laps under the lights at 6:10 p.m. in Sim. Nashville is a really fun racetrack, but it's incredibly bumpy, especially on the low line. And these cars, they do not like to hook up the traction with aggressive throttle over the bumps. It's going to take a smooth throttle pedal this week to find success in the super lates. I found that riding a bit higher allowed me to get good rotation and, more importantly, good throttle application to get off the turns. But if you step over the line, you are likely to just push out to the wall and hit it. For my qualifying lap, I used a 12-to-1 steering ratio and the default brake bias. My lap time was an 18.361. The lack of rear grip makes for a challenging drive around this old, worn-out, bumpy surface. And those bumps, they make it even harder. So you're fighting two things at once, and it's a really rewarding experience if you get it right. But that's the thing. Getting it right is very difficult to do by yourself, let alone with other drivers around you. So hopefully, if the racing is clean, you'll be able to feel that rewarding experience when you complete a lap the right way in the super late model. But as history has shown, it's hard to get clean racing in this series. Perhaps that'll turn around this week. The Tour Modifieds head to North Wilkesboro Speedway for a 60-lap race that takes place at 3:10 p.m. in Sim. This car felt a lot more fun to drive at this track than it did at, say, Thompson Speedway a few weeks ago. I'm not sure why that is, but I just found myself enjoying it a lot more at this track. Perhaps I'm just a little more comfortable with it. Who knows? But like any car at North Wilkesboro, the line that you take through turns 1 and 2 will dictate so much about your lap time. Practice your entry into turn 1, getting those left side tires just about to the grass, but don't touch it, and get out of turn 2 without blasting the outside wall. If you can get that down pat, you're going to have an inherent edge over everybody else. For my qualifying lap, I used a 10-to-1 steering ratio and 68% brake bias. The lap time was 17.487. I have not run an official race in the Tour mod yet, so my experience is still very limited with this car, but this feels like a great week to jump into the series if you're like me and you haven't done so. I am going to run at least one race this week in this series. Perhaps I'll be surprised by it and I'll want to do more, but this feels like a really fun combination. But again, that's just by myself. Put other race car drivers out there, I may change my opinion. The NASCAR Legends series goes to Talladega for a 60-lap race that takes place at noon in sim. In the past, these cars at this track has been a fantastic combination, and once again, it is. I plan on doing a lot of these races this week. They're a blast to drive. They slip and slide all over the track, and with the right group of racers, you can have one heck of a brawl. For my qualifying run, I used a 16-to-1 steering ratio and left the brake bias alone because don't need the brakes. My lap time was a 46.606. Let's ride along with live commentary Schildhouse for a lap at Talladega in the 1987 car. Back at Talladega now in the NASCAR Legends 1987 Chevy Monte Carlo, and a beautiful, beautiful new paint scheme, the Advanced GG paint scheme on the car this week, looking good. So, qualifying, Talladega, how do we do it? I'm about to show you. Sort of similar to what we did last week in A fixed and B fixed. Just get up to speed here, nice and easy up through the gears. Car will want to jump that yellow line. Make sure you don't do that. Merge onto the backstretch, and we're going to run that same line, just straddling this dashed line on the get up to speed lap. So we'll fast forward and see you for the white flag and the money lap. All right, coming out of turn 4 here again, right on this dashed line. And when you come through the tri-oval to start your flying lap, do not go all the way to the bottom. That hurts your speed. Just right down to this first dash line. Should do the trick, get you set up for the run into turn 1. Again, just let the car naturally work its way to the bottom of turn 1 and keep it right on that yellow line. Until you're just past the cone. Let the car come up to this dash line here. Hold it up against this line for a little bit longer, and then again let it naturally turn back to the bottom into 3. No steering wheel input required. The car's going to fight you a little bit right there. Got to stay up on your steering. Again, paint the yellow line all the way around. Let the car come back up to this top dash line. Now go to the bottom in the tri-oval. Little time gain there, and across the line we go. Lap time 46.606. I'm not sure that's the best you can get out here, but should be good enough for most races to start near the front. If for some reason you didn't get enough Talladega last week, here's your chance to do some more, and in a very fun car. There's an art form to hustling this car around Talladega. It's not just flat footing at every lap. That will lead to disaster. you're going to see drivers get loose on corner entry after a few laps of doing that, and they're going to wreck. All right, just be ready for that. It will happen. Use the draft to your advantage, but realize you're going to have to cut some speed going into the turns, especially if you're entering underneath somebody. These cars are so fast, the banking will not hold them. You will slide up the track, so just be ready for that. If you can stay up on the wheel and keep that right rear tire happy, you're going to have a great shot at being up front at the end to win. That's assuming you don't get caught up in a big wreck. C Fixed heads to the Highline Heaven known as Kansas Speedway. This race is 40 laps in length and takes place at 8:10 p.m. in Sim. Back on March 9th, Iracing made some changes to this track's surface properties, meaning the grip available is different now than it was the last time this track was used for official racing. What does that mean for the racing itself? Well, it remains to be seen. Is the high side still dominant? Not necessarily, but it's really going to be difficult to say with certainty until we get a few races under our belt this week. My belief is the high side will still be viable. It might even be preferable over a long run, but I do believe you're going to be able to use the low line when you're in clean air to make the best lap times. But again, that's just speculation. We don't know for sure until we start doing it. What I do know for sure is the bottom is the fastest way to go for qualifying, and for my qualifying run, I used a 14-to-1 steering ratio and 62% brake bias. My lap time was a 31.182. In the past, everyone fought to be at the wall in C Fixed, and you would only move away from it if you could get back up in line before the next corner and make some sort of pseudo slide job on asphalt. The problem is sometimes it worked, and sometimes you'd find yourself getting stuffed in the fence by somebody clearing themselves when they weren't clear to begin with. I'm not so sure we'll see exactly the same thing this week, as those changes hopefully give us more options to use without killing our tires. Again, time will tell, but hopefully it leads to better racing for everybody. B Fixed at Richmond Raceway, the NASCAR short track option of the week. It's a 60-lap race, takes place at 2:50 p.m. in Sim. Now, the last time B Fixed went to a short track was at Martinsville, and it was not good. Is it the same this week? Kinda. It's not as bad, but the car still has a really hard time slowing down and getting into the turns. I found that I was locking up my front tires pretty frequently until I really dialed back the brake bias. You're going to want to experiment with brake bias. That's really going to be an important part of B Fixed this week. Of course, the easiest thing that you can do is simply back up your corner entry, but take care when you're doing that in traffic. You're at the mercy of those behind you, and they might just drive through you if you brake a little bit earlier than they think you're going to. For my qualifying run, I used a 12-to-1 steering ratio, 60% brake bias. My lap time was a 22.451. I believe that track position is going to be very important this week. I think it's going to be really hard to pass, kind of like what we saw in C-Fixed at Richmond recently, but there may be opportunities to use that newly tuned up grip at the top of the track to get a good run off of the corners and make a pass down the straightaways, especially out of turn 4. The curved front straightaway at Richmond. Wow. This is a prime place to see some outrageous dive bombs, especially on restarts. So yeah, be prepared for those. A-Fixed joins the trucks at Kansas Speedway. They go for 50 laps at 2:50 p.m. in sim. And just like the trucks, you're gonna wanna use the low line for qualifying. It's gonna feel a little squirmy. Not sure if that's a word. The car is gonna squirm a little bit. I don't know, I like that word. Especially in turns 3 and 4, but you can hold it wide open all the way around the track if you run the right line and use the correct steering input, which is minimal. For my qualifying run, I used a 16:1 steering ratio. Brake bias doesn't matter because you're not touching them. My lap time was a 30.284. My biggest takeaway from running 5 laps with the AI cars was how loose my car would get on corner entry, especially in turns 3 and 4. If I overdrove it or took the wrong line, I would get the right rear tire really mad. And when you get that tire mad, it is not fun to drive. I don't know how the updated track surface properties that I mentioned in C-Fixed are going to impact the Cup car, but my guess is that, like the trucks, the leader can run the bottom because of clean air, but trailing cars are going to get tight and burn up their right front tire trying to do the same thing because dirty air is such a negative impact. If you're in that dirty air, just go to the top lane. The Cup car will do just fine up there, and I think that's the beauty of whatever grip tuning they may have done. If the leader's running the bottom, get out of the dirty air by going up top. We might actually see some really good racing at this track. Certainly better than we've seen in the past. NIS at Kansas goes for 134 laps, takes place at 2:30 p.m. in sim. Qualifying may not be as important this week at Kansas as it was, say, last week at Talladega, but clean air is clean air, and that is going to be absolutely essential to your success. So, how do you get clean air? Be up front. If your race gets long runs, be prepared to adapt to a changing track surface and where the most grip is available. It may start on the bottom, but as more cars run around the bottom, the top may become a more viable lane, especially in an effort to get that clean air on the nose for maximum front downforce. You're gonna have to be flexible in these long races, especially with dirty air being the way that it is. Getting out from behind a car in front of you will help you so much. Like I noted in A-Fixed, you gotta take care of that right rear tire. It's so easy to overheat that tire if you're overdriving corner entry, and once you get that tire mad, it's gonna stay mad for the rest of the run, and you're not gonna have a very fun time. So take care of the tires, look for clean air. Those are my keys to success in NIS this week. And that'll do it for this week's Fixed Setup Oval Racing Guide. We are fast approaching 5,000 subscribers, and I would love to get there before May rolls around. But over 60% of my viewers are not yet subscribed to the channel, so I truly hope that if you're not already subscribed, that you consider changing that today. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can always unsubscribe later. By subscribing, leaving a like on the video, and sharing it with others, you're showing that you want to support this type of content and that you want to help the channel grow. It all helps so very much, and I am truly appreciative of your support. I stream my iRacing adventures throughout the week on my Twitch channel. Stop on by. I'd love to see you over there. And again, Thank you so much for watching this video, and have a great week of racing.